Let's shift to a lighter topic, something that's a little more fun. White supremacy. Let's touch on this one a little. We might not be here long. I just find it silly anytime I see someone who's a white supremacist, whether they're wearing the hood in the KKK or they're marching and chanting how great and pure and perfect they are. And I just kind of giggle at them sometimes and go, you have no idea how much West African, North African, Neanderthal is running through your DNA, and the rest of us are just kind of off to the side going, what are you proud of exactly? Like, what's so great about it? So I wanted to open the discussion briefly about just, obviously it comes from ignorance, but where do you think this idea, other than the missing the facts, of white supremacy comes from? Where are these guys getting this information that they're special?
Well, I can't answer that, but I mean, it's interesting. The genetic evidence for our purposes, cut the right way in the last few years. I think it was about 5 years ago where they did the genome, the Neanderthal genome, and it was found that the only people on Earth who are 100% Homo sapiens are Africans,
right.
Sub-Saharan Africans. Everyone else was, your grandma was raped by Neanderthals or raped a Neanderthal. So you're part
not
Neanderthal.
often the word rape gets a laugh twice in a row. I just want to say it's very, very well placed there, Sam.
So that was really delightful, but it's useful to point out though that it could have been the other way, right? And that would be a taboo thing to be pointed out, right. In terms of political correctness. But yeah, that was fantastic.
But I have an opening invitation for any white supremacist who wants to come on Dogma Debate. We will pay for a DNA test to prove your purity, and we'll see how it works out. I would love to do that. But it's got to be the way they're raised, right? It's got to be that you're very, very special. You're perfect. See your beautiful white skin. It's all perfect. And they just grow up with all this ignorance of the data, right?
Well, yeah, clearly it is what you teach kids. I mean, everyone who's a parent in this room just needs to think for a moment of what it's like to be in the presence of a child who knows nothing, right? And you're in this position of filling their head with a worldview. And if you're a rational parent who has the interests of your child at heart, well, then you're just telling them, appropriate facts as more or less as fast as you can. But it just, and again, I'm speaking to someone who did not have a childhood of religious indoctrination, but I can only imagine what it was like to hear from your parents, the most authoritative authorities that exist for the longest period of time, from the moment you could understand human speech, to be hearing about hell and about the fact that you would go there if you didn't believe in Jesus, or you didn't believe that the Quran was the perfect word. And I mean, I hear from atheists who can't yet shake the fear of hell. I mean, they've been atheists for 20 years, but there's still part of them that was sufficiently indoctrinated with this that they, again, I don't even know how they process this as a conscious thought, but part of them is still worried that they might wind up in hellfire.
So this idea of being special or being better than other people, it's
another ideology that you can just impart to a kid, and there's no mystery as to why they would believe it when they turn 10, if that's what you have been telling them for 10 years.
Again, facts, I guess, are going to be the best ammunition against that. Just continuing to teach about, and I've seen there's some show where a guy went on and did he's a white supremacist, and he went on and did a DNA test. And when they showed him the results, he was like 14% West African or something. It was a much higher percentage than many other whites. And he just denied the results. He was just like, yeah.
Oh, I mean,
wonder who put that out there.
There were Nazis in Germany and during the war who at a certain point found out that they were Jewish. That's a rather gorgeous revelation. But you're always vulnerable if you think. I mean, this comes down to what's wrong with identity politics. Really, if you think that the goodness of a certain principle. You know, if you want to organize society with respect to things like justice and fairness, and the lens through which you are judging the rightness of any principle is your identity with a certain tribe, right? That's it. At a minimum, you're vulnerable to discovering that you're actually not in that tribe, right? Which is, you know, but the problem with identity politics is that whatever you think is true or good has to be something you could persuade others of, and the only way you could persuade them is, because they are others, is to make an argument that doesn't depend on who you are, right? It's not a I mean, that's what it is to reason with people, and that's what it is to actually have reasons for what you believe. And this is what was so brilliant about the political philosopher John Rawls's thought experiment. I'm sure many of you have heard of Rawls, if not read his books, but he talked about a conception of a just society being something we could all converge on if we reasoned from what he called the original position, or from behind a veil of ignorance. And so this veil of ignorance is, we have all of the facts of science and reality to work with, but we just don't know anything about who we are in this society. You don't know if you're black or white, or man or woman, or tall or short, or whether you have brain damage. I mean, you have no idea how lucky you are or unlucky you are. And so from behind that veil of ignorance, the burden is on you to come up with principles of fairness and justice, which you would agree to before you find out who you are in this society, before you find out that you're rich or you're poor. And to be reasoning in any other way, which is the core of identity politics, is to not do that, and to reason from the point of view as, well, listen, as a white man or as a black woman, I believe X, right? But that's exactly what it is to be biased. That's exactly what it is to have your principles undermined by self-interest. And that's, I mean, it's clearly the way forward is to be doing something much more like Rawls suggested.
I'm being signaled that it's time to take questions, but Sarah, I wanted to make sure you didn't have anything you wanted to get in on that, especially it being white supremacy. I don't want to get some accusation, oh, you didn't let Sarah ask, get in on the conversation about white supremacy. I want to make sure there's nothing you had to add to that before.
Well, I not much, in that I agree that it's just another form of a group of people finding a way to feel like they're superior to everyone else, that they have a clearer view on the world, and they're able to see things as they are, and they're able to manipulate the world better than anyone else. I mean, we've seen this in a variety of different political ideologies, and then we see that in religion, and it makes sense to me that for some people race would be a good vehicle. But I will say that I don't really like the idea of using DNA tests as, a gotcha kind of thing for, well, because, it's okay. It's viscerally fun to just hurt these people in some way, right? Like it's just like, oh, haha, right? But at the same time, you're not doing anything about the hatred itself. You're just using that hatred as a tool to just hurt somebody. Like, haha, you think black people are scum, but you're 1/4 black, so you're scum according to you, right? I mean, there's something a little bit dirty about like playing that game, and perhaps that's not the way we should be going about it, because the ultimate idea is that even if it were 100% white, I mean, it would still be a terrible way to think about the world.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad to know you think about me that way. But thank you for that. No, that's a great point, and I never considered it like a hateful thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. I never considered it to be like a thumbing at the nose, ha, you're part of this. It was really, my idea was more of a bringing people together to say, you're proud of what? You think you have this pure white whatever. There's no such thing as that. You're connected to everyone that you're being hateful toward, and hopefully that would help them bring their walls down and say, wait a minute, my hatefulness is based in ignorance. I'm proud of something that really doesn't even exist. we're all connected. We all have common ancestors. That was really my angle.
Yeah,
I would never
and
mean
I understand
for
that.
someone
Like,
to take that in a hateful way.
there's some way that you can use their self-image and their desire to find themselves as superior, against them in that way, and maybe that will lead them to think that, black people aren't so bad or Asian people aren't so bad if they find out that they themselves are mixed. But I don't think that it necessarily turns out to be that way. I mean, like you've said and Sam said, a lot of people deny the test results, and even then, you don't actually know if what it'll lead to is for them to reevaluate how they see supremacy. Maybe not white supremacy, but just supremacy based on racial characteristics. They might just reevaluate what percent white is acceptable in order to be, superior, or perhaps mixed people are more or superior. So it doesn't really tackle the underlying ideology, which is so hateful and repulsive.
That's a great point. Thank you.